A single dad hears a desperate cry and dives into danger, unaware he's rescuing Elena Whitaker, a tech titan with a broken past. Before we unravel this heart-wrenching tale, please hit that like button to support more stories like this. Thank you so much. The alarm clock screamed through David Tran's tiny apartment, shattering the quiet at 4:30 a.m. Its piercing wail was a brutal wake-up call for the grind ahead. With a tired groan, David stretched out an arm, silencing it before it could rouse his 7-year-old daughter, Lily, asleep in the next room, in the faint dawn light. His phone glowed 4:30, daring him to drag himself from the creaky bed. David sat up, rubbing his eyes, fighting the exhaustion that clung to him after a restless night. At 32, he looked older than his years, not from age, but from life's weight. The lines on his face told stories of single fatherhood, endless bills, and the ache of losing his wife, Emily, to a car accident 2 years ago. Her death didn't just break his heart, it left a pile of hospital debts, pulling him into a financial spiral. He stood, moving softly across the worn floorboards that groaned under his weight, careful not to wake Lily. The small house on the edge of Asheville, North Carolina, was humble, a frayed couch, a scratched dining table, and Lily's crayon drawings taped to the walls like bursts of color in David's gray world. He flipped on the coffee maker, its hum cutting through the silence. While it brewed, he grabbed his work clothes, a faded green t-shirt and jeans, paired with a sign reading Trans Bike Repairs, the small shop he'd taken over from his dad, in a town where cars ruled. The shop barely kept him and Lily afloat. David sat at the kitchen table, staring at a stack of bills, a late power bill, rent due soon, and a note from Lily's school about a science camp costing $75 that she was desperate to attend. "We'll make it work," he whispered to himself, a mantra he'd leaned on since Emily's death. "We always do." In the dim light, his eyes caught a photo on the fridge Emily and Lily, laughing during a hike in the Blue Ridge Mountains 3 years back. Emily's brown hair danced in the wind, her eyes bright, while Lily, then 4, clutched a pine cone like a treasure. David's lips curved into a sad smile. "You'd be so proud of her," he murmured, as if she could hear him. The coffee was ready. He poured a mug, its warmth easing his calloused hands. He took a sip, the bitter kick jolting him awake. Today was packed. A client in a ritzy neighborhood needed a bike fixed, then a few deliveries around town. If luck held, he'd scrape enough to cover the power bill and save a bit for Lily's camp. By 5 a.m., David was in his beat-up pickup truck, the engine rumbling as he turned the key. The dashboard was cluttered with repair invoices and a photo of Lily taped near the vent, her grin fueling his daily hustle. He switched on the radio, a local station crackling with news about a charity gala tonight at the Whitaker estate, hosted by the elusive tech mogul Elena Whitaker. David half listened, the details slipping past. The Whitakers, with their wealth and clout, lived in a world so distant from his, they might as well be fairy tale characters. "Must be nice," he muttered, turning left toward Mrs. Carter's house, where a busted bike chain waited. Asheville's streets were still dark, lit by flickering streetlights in the morning fog. The city, with its quiet hills and crisp air, had been David's home for all 32 years of his life. But today, an odd unease stirred in him, like fate was priming for something big. Meanwhile, across town in the upscale Biltmore forest, Elena Whitaker was already awake in her sleek home office. Elena was striking tall, with a poised frame, fair skin, and piercing blue eyes that could unsettle any rival. She stood by a wall of windows, gazing at the manicured gardens of the Whitaker estate, a legacy spanning generations. A steaming coffee mug warmed her hands, but her thoughts were elsewhere. Elena was the CEO of Whitaker Innovations, a powerhouse in green tech that had redefined sustainable energy. Under her lead, the company wasn't just a billion-dollar empire, it was a beacon of progress and responsibility. But behind her polished exterior, Elena carried deep scars, Her marriage to James Carter, a driven financier, had collapsed 4 years ago. Soon after their twins, Sophie and Ethan, were born, James couldn't handle being married to one of America's most powerful women. The messy divorce, with James trading parental rights for a massive payout, had crushed Elena's trust in love. She sipped her coffee, her gaze drifting to the garden where Sophie and Ethan's treehouse stood quiet in the dawn. The twins, now 5, were her everything. Sophie, thoughtful and curious with her mother's eyes, had faced heart surgery as an infant. Ethan, bold and full of mischief, always made Elena laugh. Thanks to top-notch care, Sophie was thriving. But those days of watching her daughter in the ICU still haunted Elena. It was why she poured her soul into the Whitaker Foundation, hosting tonight's gala to fund pediatric hospitals. Mrs. Whitaker, her assistant Laura's voice crackled through the intercom. The event team needs your final sign-off on the gala's seating chart. Elena sighed. The gala was her mother, Margaret Whitaker's legacy, a tradition Elena upheld even after Margaret's death 2 years ago. Though she disliked the spotlight, Elena carried on for the cause. I'll be there soon, Laura, she replied, taking one last look at the garden. Sophie and Ethan would wake soon, eager to share their dreams with their nanny, Miss Ellis. As Elena descended the grand staircase, her mind wandered to the gala. Another night of forced smiles, matchmaking by Asheville's elite, and the pressure to uphold the Whitaker name. Truth was, Elena wasn't chasing love anymore. She'd tried, failed, and now focused on her kids and her empire. Yet, a quiet loneliness lingered, like a chill in the vast estate, back with David. His morning unfolded in the familiar rhythm of work. At Mrs. Carter's, he fixed the bike chain in no time, earning a warm thank you and a glass of sweet tea. You're a blessing, David, she said, handing him a small envelope of cash. My grandson would be stranded without you. David smiled, tucking the envelope away. Just doing my job. Ma'am, call if you need me. His next stop was a downtown cafe, where a bike's flat tire needed patching. He worked steadily, sweat beading on his brow, but his thoughts stayed on Lily. She was his light, with Emily's smile and a boundless curiosity about the world. Lily loved plants, always asking how trees grew or why flowers bloomed. The science camp, with its nature hikes, was all she talked about. David knew he had to find that $75, even if his wallet was nearly empty. By noon, a client canceled an afternoon job, a blow to his income. But it meant he could pick Lily up from school instead of leaving her in aftercare. The thought lifted his spirits. He drove to Asheville Elementary, parking along the curb to wait. When the bell rang, Lily burst out, her pigtails bouncing, her eyes lighting up when she saw him. Daddy, you're here, she squealed, throwing her arms around him. Got lucky with my schedule, kiddo. David grinned, ruffling her hair. How's school? Lily launched into a story about her science class, how plants talk through their roots, and how her friend Mia swore the new ice cream shop on Patton Avenue had the best mint chocolate chip. David nodded, half listening, his mind on the bills at home. Tonight, he had a shift at a mechanic's garage from 6 p.m. to midnight. Their neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, would watch Lily, but David hated missing their bedtime routine. Daddy, are you listening? Lily pouted, crossing her arms. Sorry, sweetheart. What did you say? I said, can we get ice cream? Mia says the mint chip's amazing. David glanced at the gas gauge, nearly on empty, and thought of the camp fee, but Lily's hopeful eyes were impossible to resist. All right, he said, turning toward Patton Avenue. 1 scoop. Deal. Lily cheered, fist pumping the air. David laughed, a rare moment of lightness in his worries. At the Whitaker estate, the day grew chaotic as gala preparations ramped up. Elena was pulled into meetings, approving floral designs, menus, and a guest list of 150 of the South's richest and most influential. During a brief break, she slipped into the twins' playroom, where Sophie and Ethan were building a fort from cushions under mistos. Ellis's watchful eye, "Mommy," they cried, rushing into her arms. Elena knelt, hugging them tight, feeling Sophie's steady heartbeat, a miracle she'd prayed for nightly. "How are my little builders doing?" she asked, admiring their forts. "We're making a spaceship," Sophie said seriously. "For astronauts and dinosaurs. No dinosaurs," Ethan protested. "Robots and aliens." Elena laughed. "How about an astronaut who befriends alien dinosaurs? Pretty cool, right?" They nodded, pulling her into their game. For 20 precious minutes, Elena forgot her pressures, crawling through cushioned tunnels and fending off imaginary invaders. Her tailored blazer got rumpled, but she didn't care. These moments with Sophie and Ethan were her anchor. "Miss Whitaker," Laura appeared, apologetic. "The caterers need your menu approval, and security wants to go over tonight's plan." Elena nodded. "Duty calling." She kissed the twins goodbye, promising to return before the gala. As she left, she heard Ethan ask Miss Ellis if they could launch their spaceship with marshmallows. No rockets indoors. "Dear Miss," Ellis said firmly, "but we can pretend." David dropped Lily at Mrs. Jenkins's house at 5:30 p.m., swapping his t-shirt for the garage's gray uniform. Mrs. Jenkins, a kind woman with a warm smile, greeted Lily with a plate of cookies. "Don't rush back, David," she said. "Lily and I have a puzzle to tackle tonight." "Thanks, Mrs. J," David said, kneeling to hug Lily. "Be good." "Okay, I'll pick you up after my shift." As he drove to the garage, storm clouds darkened the sky. The forecast warned of heavy rain, and Asheville's weather could turn wild this time of year. David took a shortcut through back roads, hoping to beat the rush as people headed home. Rain began to fall, thick drops smacking the windshield, forced by a road closure. David turned onto an unfamiliar route. The houses grew larger, spaced farther apart. He realized he'd entered Biltmore Forest, Asheville's wealthiest enclave. He was about to turn back when a faint cry caught his ear, barely audible over the storm. David pulled over, heart racing. He thought it might be the wind. But the cry came again, desperate, from a nearby abandoned quarry. Grabbing his flashlight, he dialed 911, but the signal was spotty. He jogged toward the quarry's entrance, a dark, jagged hole half hidden by overgrowth. The storm raged, rain soaking him. But David's instincts kicked in. He'd trained in basic rescue years ago, helping at community events, and something told him to act. Tying his jacket around his waist, he climbed over rubble into the quarry. Inside, the air was damp, reeking of earth and stone. David called out, "Anyone there? I'm here to help." Through the storm's roar, a faint voice answered. Following it, he navigated a narrow tunnel, his flashlight cutting through the dark. At the end, he found a woman, her leg pinned under a fallen rock, her face pale but her eyes fierce. It was Elena Whitaker. "Don't move," David said, kneeling beside her. "I'm David Tran. Where are you hurt?" Elena gasped, her voice strained. "My leg, it's stuck." "I'm Elena. Please, help me." David assessed the rock heavy, but movable with leverage. "Are you okay otherwise?" "Chest pain. Trouble breathing. Just my leg," Elena said, gripping her hands to stay calm. "I was ambushed. My ex's people. They wanted documents." David frowned, but focused. He found a rusted metal rod nearby, perfect for leverage. Hang in there. I'm gonna lift this rock. When I count to 3, pull your leg out if you can." Elena nodded, bracing herself. David wedged the rod under the rock, pushing with all his strength. 1, 2, 3. The rock shifted just enough, and Elena yanked her leg free, wincing in pain. David caught her, checking her injury bruised, possibly fractured, but not bleeding badly. "Can you walk?" he asked, looping her arm over his shoulder. "With help," Elena said, gritting her teeth. David supported her, guiding her through the tunnel. Falling rocks forced them to backtrack, but he stayed calm, his flashlight leading the way. Finally, they reached the entrance, stumbling into the rain. David helped Elena to a tree for shelter, using his jacket to shield her. "You're gonna be okay," he said, checking her leg again. "Help's coming." "Thank you," Elena whispered, her voice breaking. "You didn't have to do this." David shook his head. "I've got a daughter, Lily. If she was in there, I'd want someone to help. Couldn't just walk away." Before Elena could reply, headlights pierced the rain. Paramedics and police swarmed in, rushing them to ambulances. As they were separated, Elena grabbed David's hand, her eyes full of gratitude. "I'll find you, David Tran. I owe you my life." David nodded, exhausted but relieved. He didn't know who she was, but it didn't matter. He just wanted to get back to Lily. Rain pounded the ambulance roof as David Tran sat on a gurney. A thin blanket draped over his shoulders. The storm outside showed no mercy, its howl mingling with the wail of sirens. Red and blue lights from police cars and fire trucks flashed across the quarry, painting the night in chaos. Paramedics bustled around, their voices sharp and urgent. David's clothes were soaked, his hands caked with mud, and his boots squelched with every shift. He looked like he'd crawled through hell, but his mind was on Lily, waiting with Mrs. Jenkins, probably wondering why he was late. Across the lot, in another ambulance, Elena Whitaker sat upright, her leg propped on a stretcher. A paramedic wrapped a temporary brace around her ankle. But Elena's focus was elsewhere. She clutched a blanket, her face pale but her eyes sharp, scanning the scene. She caught sight of David, his slouched figure lit by the ambulance's glow. He was unassuming, messy dark hair, a worn jacket, and a quiet strength that seemed to anchor the madness around him. She owed him everything. A paramedic, a young woman named Sarah, knelt beside David, shining a penlight in his eyes. "You're lucky, Mr. Tran," she said, her voice steady, no major injuries. "Just some scrapes and maybe a touch of shock. We'll keep an eye on you." "Any pain?" David shook his head, though his shoulders ached from heaving the rock. "I'm fine," he rasped, his throat dry. "Just make sure she's okay." Sarah glanced at Elena's ambulance. "She's tough, thanks to you." "She's safe." "That was brave, what you did." David shrugged, uneasy with the praise. He wasn't a hero, just a dad who couldn't ignore a cry for help. His thoughts drifted to Lily. It was past 9 p.m., and his shift at the garage was a distant memory. Mrs. Jenkins would be worried. He patted his pocket, realizing his phone was still in the truck, likely drenched, but hopefully salvageable. As Sarah checked his vitals, David's gaze wandered to the quarry. Rescue workers cordoned off the entrance, their flashlights sweeping through the rubble. He replayed Elena's words, "My ex's people." This wasn't an accident. Someone had trapped her, and David had stumbled into something bigger than he'd bargained for. He pushed the thought aside. All that mattered was getting home to Lily. "Mr. Tran." A police officer approached, her badge glinting under the ambulance lights. She was middle-aged, with a no-nonsense air. Holding a notepad, "I'm Lieutenant Harris. I need a quick statement. You're not in trouble, just helping us piece this together." David nodded, sipping water from a bottle Sarah handed him. "I was driving through, heard a scream. Tried calling 911, but the signal was bad. Went into the quarry, found her, Elena, pinned under a rock. Lifted it, got her out." "That's it," Harris scribbled, her expression softening. "That's no small feat. Mr. Tran, we suspect foul play." "Miss Whitaker's a high-profile figure. You may have saved her from more than just a rock. David's brow furrowed. She gonna be okay? We'll keep her safe, Harris said. She'll want to thank you, I'm sure. David waved it off. No need. I just want to get to my daughter. Harris gave a small smile, then stepped away. David leaned back, the cold metal of the gurney grounding him. He was bone-tired, the adrenaline fading, leaving a dull ache. He closed his eyes, picturing Lily's face, her giggle when he tucked her in. Gotta get home, he muttered, as if saying it would make it real. In her ambulance, Elena winced as the paramedic tightened the brace. Her leg throbbed, but she was alive because of David Tran. She thought of Sophie and Ethan, safe at home with Mrs. Ellis, oblivious to how close they'd come to losing her. The thought tightened her chest. She'd faced boardroom battles and hostile takeovers, but nothing like the terror of that quarry, the rock crushing her leg, the darkness closing in, and then David appeared, a stranger with steady hands and a calm voice, pulling her from the brink. You're stable, Mrs. Whitaker, the paramedic said. Packing up. We'll get x-rays at the hospital. But you'll need rest. Any dizziness or nausea? Elena shook her head, her eyes still on David. I'm okay. Who is he? The paramedic followed her gaze. David Tran, local bike repair guy, single dad. From what I heard, just happened to be passing by. Elena's lips parted. A bike repairman, not a cop or a soldier, had risked his life for her. In her world of calculated moves and hidden agendas, his selflessness was a shock. She'd met countless people angling for her favor, but David didn't even know who she was. He'd acted because it was right. I need to talk to him, Elena said, shifting to stand despite the pain. Ma'am, you should stay put, the paramedic warned, but Elena's look silenced him. She eased out of the ambulance, leaning on the doorframe. The rain, now a drizzle. The scene was calmer, rescue teams packing up, police taking photos. She limped toward David's ambulance, her blanket trailing in the mud. David looked up as she approached, their eyes locking. For a moment, neither spoke. Elena saw the fatigue in his face, the lines etched by hardship, but his brown eyes held a warmth that steadied her. He wasn't polished or imposing, just real, and it struck her how rare that was. Mr. Tran, she began, her voice stronger than she felt. I'm Elena Whitaker. I don't know where to start. You saved my life. I owe you everything. David shifted, clearly uncomfortable. Call me David. And you don't owe me anything. Glad you're okay. Elena shook her head, her wet hair sticking to her face. You went into that quarry in a storm. For a stranger, most wouldn't. Why did you? David hesitated, rubbing the back of his neck. I've got a daughter, Lily. If she was trapped, I'd hope someone would help. Couldn't just drive by. His words hit Elena like a wave. She thought of Sophie, her fragile heart, and Ethan, her fearless boy. She'd nearly lost them tonight. You're a father, she said softly. I get it. David gave a small smile. Yeah, it's the job doing crazy stuff for your kid. Elena laughed, the sound surprising her. You're good at it. Please, let me do something to thank you. Anything you need. David shook his head. Appreciate it. But I'm good. Take care of yourself. Before Elena could insist, Sarah stepped in. Mr. Tran, we're taking you to the hospital for a quick check. Standard procedure. I'm fine, David protested. But Sarah's look was firm. Trust us, she said. Won't take long. Elena stepped back, reluctant. I'll find you. David. This isn't over. David nodded, half smiling. As the ambulance doors closed, Elena stood in the drizzle, watching the vehicle pull away. Her mind raced. David Tran was unlike anyone in her orbit, genuine, unassuming, and brave in a way that humbled her. She wasn't letting this end with a handshake in the rain. The next morning, sunlight spilled through David's kitchen window, chasing away the storm's gloom. He sat at the table, a mug of coffee cooling beside him, the radio humming softly. Lily was at school, dropped off early after a quick breakfast of oatmeal and hugs. Last night, he'd gotten home past midnight. After a hospital check confirmed, he was fine, just bruised and tired. Mrs. Jenkins hadn't minded the late hour, but David felt the familiar guilt of leaning on her. The Asheville Citizen-Times lay open, a headline catching his eye. Local man saves tech CEO in quarry collapse. The article was short, naming him as the heroic bystander who rescued Elena Whitaker. It mentioned her company, Whitaker Innovations, and the gala she'd missed. David skimmed it, uneasy. He didn't want attention. He just wanted to fix bikes and pay his bills. His phone buzzed a text from his buddy Mike at the garage. "Dude, you're famous. Saved a billionaire. Beers on you." David chuckled. But the fame felt like a weight. He wasn't a billionaire's savior. He was Lily's dad. Scraping by, a knock at the door snapped him out of it. He opened it to find a courier, holding a sleek envelope with the Whitaker Innovations logo. "David Tran," the courier asked, handing it over. "Sign here." David signed, puzzled, and tore it open. Inside was a letter, handwritten on crisp stationery. "Dear David, words can't express my gratitude. You saved my life, and I want to thank you properly. Please join me for coffee tomorrow at Bean and Bloom. 10 a.m. Bring Lily if she's free. I'd love to meet her. Yours, Elena Whitaker." Tucked in the envelope was a $500 gift card to a local grocery store. David stared, his stomach twisting. It was generous, too generous. He could buy groceries for weeks, maybe cover Lily's camp fees. But it felt like charity, and David had always prided himself on earning his way. Still, coffee wasn't a commitment, and Lily would love the cafe's hot chocolate. He texted Mike back. "Not famous. Just got invited to coffee with her." "Weird, right?" Mike's reply was instant. "Weird. Bro, she's loaded and hot. Go for it." David rolled his eyes, pocketing the phone. He wasn't going for anything. Elena was out of his league, her world all glass towers and private jets. But her note was sincere, and he couldn't deny the pull to see her again, not as a victim, but as a person across town. Elena sat in a hospital room, her leg in a cast. The x-rays showed a hairline fracture, manageable with rest and crutches. She hated being sidelined, but her mind wasn't on her injury. It was on David Tran's. Laura, her assistant, had dug up what she could. 32, widower, runs a bike repair shop, raising Lily alone. No criminal record, no flashy social media, just a guy getting by who'd done the impossible. "He's not after anything," Laura said, handing Elena a tablet with David's file. "No connections to James or his ex's circle. Pure luck he was there." Elena nodded, staring at David's photo, a grainy shot from a local business listing. His eyes kind but guarded. "Luck," she murmured, "or something else." Her ex, James, had resurfaced recently, sniffing around Whitaker Innovations. Elena suspected his investors were behind the quarry attack, though the police had no leads. They'd wanted her laptop, left in her car, which held sensitive company data. The attack was a warning. But David had changed the outcome, and now she needed to know why he'd risked it all. "I sent him the letter," Laura said. "Think he'll see him." "I hope so," Elena replied, leaning back. "He's different." Laura raised an eyebrow, but didn't pry. Elena's thoughts wandered. She'd seen bravery, but David's was raw, instinctive. He'd stirred something in her, a spark of connection she hadn't felt in years. Coffee was step one. She'd gauge him, thank him, and maybe understand why his quiet courage had shaken her so deeply. At 10 a.m., and Bean and Bloom was warm and bustling, the scent of espresso mingling with fresh scones. David arrived early, Lily in tow. her backpack stuffed with coloring books and crayons. He'd begged to come, her curiosity about Elena outweighing a school art project. Is she like a queen? Lily had asked, tugging his hand as they entered. Not a queen, David said, scanning the room. Just a lady daddy who helped. Lily grinned, unconvinced. David spotted her at a corner table, away from the crowd. Elena looked different, less polished, more human. In a cream sweater and jeans, her hair loose, her crutches leaned against the wall, and her cast peeked out. But her smile was bright as she waved them over. David. Lily, she called. Standing carefully, I'm so glad you're here. Hi, Lily chirped. Climbing onto a chair. You're the lady from the cave. Your leg's all robot-y now. Elena laughed. Charmed. Kind of robot-y. Yeah, I'm Elena. And you're the Lily, right? I hear you're a plant genius. Lily beamed beams, pulling out her notebook. I know all about sunflowers. They follow the sun. I drew one for you. She slid a crayon sketch across the table, a sunflower with a bandaged stem, labeled, Get Better. Elena's eyes softened. This is amazing. Lily, I'm framing it. David sat, still guarded. Thanks for the invite. And the gift card. It's a lot. Elena waved it off. It's nothing compared to what you did. I wanted to thank you both. Lily, she added. Hot chocolates on me. Sound good? Lily nodded vigorously, and David ordered a black coffee, keeping it simple. As Lily colored, Elena leaned in. How are you holding up? After everything, David shrugged. Sore, but fine. Not big on the newspaper stuff. Just want to keep things normal for Lily. I get it, Elena said, her voice low. I'm sorry you're caught in it. My life's public, and it spills over. But what you did was extraordinary. David met her eyes, blue and earnest, and felt a flicker of something trust. Maybe you okay? He asked, nodding at her cast. What happened out there? That wasn't random, was it? Elena hesitated, choosing her words. No, it wasn't. My ex-husband, James, has, let's say, people who'd rather I wasn't around. They're after company data. I'm safe now. Thanks to you. David's stomach nodded. They still after you. Not if I can help it. She said, a steel in her tone. I've got security, lawyers. But I won't lie, it's messy. He nodded. Processing. Sounds like a different world. It is, she admitted. But you're part of it now, like it or not. You saved me, and I don't take that lightly. Their drinks arrived, breaking the tension. Lily sipped her hot chocolate, marshmallow foam on her nose, while Elena laughed, handing her a napkin. David watched, a small smile tugging at his lips. Elena was powerful, sure, but here she was warm. Teasing Lily about her drawing and asking David about his shop, it felt easy. So, Elena said, stirring her latte, tell me about your shop. Been fixing bikes long, since I was a kid, David said, relaxing a bit. Dad taught me it's small, but it's mine, keeps the lights on. Lily says you're the best, Elena said. Glancing at her, she's a good judge. She's biased, David said, chuckling, but loves her. She loves plants, though wants to be a botanist. Keeps digging up the yard to study roots. Tio. Elena grinned. A scientist already. My twins, Sophie and Lily, are the same Ethan. They're 5. Sophie's into puzzles. Ethan's all art and chaos. They'd love Lily. They'd probably gang up on me, David said, picturing it. Lily'd lead the charge with her plant facts. They laughed. The conversation flowing, Lily chimed in, telling Elena about her favorite tree, a maple in their yard, and Elena listened, genuinely, asking about leaf shapes. David felt the gap between their worlds narrow. Just for a moment. He wasn't a hero or a nobody here, just a dad. Talking to a mom who got it. Elena's phone buzzed, and she glanced at it, frowning. "Sorry," she said. "Work never stops. My team's dealing with fallout from last night." David nodded, reality creeping back. "That ex of yours, he gonna be a problem?" Elena's jaw tightened. "James, he's a problem." "Yeah, he's been trying to undermine me since the divorce." This was a new low, though. David didn't push, but he was curious. "You don't have to tell me, but why go after you now?" "Control," Elena said simply. "He wants to hurt me where it counts my company, my kids. But I'm not winning this one." Her fire was magnetic. And David felt a spark of admiration. He'd never dealt with stakes like hers. But he knew fighting for family. "Sounds like you've got it handled," he said. "I do," she replied, but her eyes softened. "But I meant what I said, David. I want to help you. Your shop. Lily's, can't name it." David stiffened. "I appreciate it, but we're good. I don't need handouts. It's not a handout," Elena said firmly. "You earned it. Think of it as an investment in a good man who does good work." He didn't reply, but her sincerity chipped at his walls. Lily tugged his sleeve. "Daddy, can Elena come see my treehouse? It's got a leaf collection." Elena laughed. "A treehouse? I'm jealous. Maybe Sophie and Ethan can visit, too." "Deal," Lily declared. High-fiving her, David shook his head. Amused. "You're in for it now," he told Elena. "I can handle it," she said, her smile teasing. They stayed another half hour, Lily drawing while David and Elena talked about Asheville's bike trails. Lily's school, the twins' antics. It was light, real, a balm after the quarry's terror. When they parted, Elena touched his arm. This was good. "David, let's do it in again." "Yeah," he said, meaning it. "Take care of that leg." She smiled, hobbling to her car. Where a driver waited, David watched her go. Lily's hand in his, a strange mix of warmth and wariness in his chest. Elena Whitaker was a force, and he was just a guy with a wrench. But something had started here, and he wasn't shake it. Days passed, and David threw himself into work, fixing bikes and dodging calls from local news wanting interviews. The hero label chafed, but business picked up folks brought bikes just to shake his hand. He paid the power bill and tucked away $75 for Lily's camp, her joy worth every late night. The gift card bought groceries, easing the knot in his stomach. But Elena's world lingered, her laugh, her grit. The way she'd connected with Lily. One afternoon, a sleek SUV pulled up at his shop. A woman stepped out, not Elena, but a sharp-dressed woman in her 30s, with a tablet in hand. "Mr. Tran. I'm Laura, Miss Whitaker's assistant. She sent me." David wiped his hands on a rag, wary. "What's this about?" Laura smiled. "She'd like to offer your shop a contract maintenance for our company's employee bikes. It's a trial. Fully paid. Here's the contract." She handed him a folder. David flipped through it. A 3-month deal. Generous pay. Enough to cover rent for months. It was a lifeline. But it felt tied to the quarry. This because of what happened. Laura shook her head. "It's impressed with your work. Our team's legit. We checked your reviews. But yes, she wants to support you. Look it over." David nodded, the weight of it sinking in. He signed the initial form, his mind racing. That evening, he picked Lily up at school, her chatter about a new plant project filling the cab. At home, he read the contract again, torn. It was honest work, but accepting it meant stepping closer to Elena's world, a world of power and danger he didn't fully grasp. His phone buzzed Elena. "Hey." Her voice was warm. Laura said she stopped by. "What do you think?" David leaned back. "It's too big. Maybe I don't want this because I pulled you out of a cave." "It's not," she said firmly. You're good at what you do, David. This is business and a thank you. Say yes. He exhaled. All right. I'm in. Thanks. Elena. You're welcome, she said. Oh, and Lily's treehouse. Sophie and Ethan are begging for that playdate. Saturday work. David smiled, picturing Lily's excitement. Saturday's good. Great, she said, a grin in her voice. See you then. He hung up, the contract on the table. Lily's laughter drifting from her room. David didn't know where this was going. But for the first time in years, he felt like more than survival. Elena Whitaker was changing his life, one step at a time, and he wasn't sure if he was ready to run toward it or away. The morning sun broke through the clouds, casting a golden glow over Asheville's packed square park. The air carried the crisp scent of autumn leaves and blooming chrysanthemums, with birds chirping in the oaks lining the paths. David Tran parked his old pickup truck near the park's entrance, the engine coughing as it shut off. Lily bounced in the passenger seat, her backpack stuffed with a sketch pad, colored pencils, and a makeshift plant journal she'd insisted on bringing to show Elena's twins, Sophie and Ethan. Daddy, do Sophie and Ethan like plants? Lily asked, clutching her journal, its cover decorated with stick-on leaves. David unbuckled his seatbelt, smiling. If they're anything like you, they'll love 'em. Just don't turn the park into a jungle, okay? Lily giggled. No promises. David stepped out, stretching his stiff back. He'd swapped his usual work flannel for a clean gray hoodie and jeans, but he still felt out of place meeting Elena here. Pack Square Park was lively families picnicking, kids chasing each other, and vendors selling kettle corn and handmade jewelry. The park was Asheville's heart, with its sprawling lawns, historic fountain, and views of the Blue Ridge Mountains. David rarely came, the last time being a kite-flying day with Lily months ago. He checked his phone 9:55 a.m. 5 minutes early. Elena had texted last night to confirm, suggesting they meet near the flower gardens. David took Lily's hand, weaving through the crowd, a nervous flutter in his chest. He wasn't anxious, exactly. But seeing Elena again outside the chaos of the quarry or the formality of her office felt different, more personal. Look, Daddy. Lily pointed to the gardens, where vibrant marigolds and asters bloomed in neat rows. Elena stood there, unmistakable even in casual clothes, a cream sweater, dark jeans, and sneakers, her cast barely visible under her pant leg. Sophie and Ethan played nearby, giggling as they tossed a foam ball. David took a deep breath, squeezing Lily's hand. Let's go, kiddo. As they approached, Elena spotted them and waved, her smile warm. David, Lily, over here. Lily let go of David's hand, sprinting forward. Hi, Miss Elena. Are you Sophie and Ethan's mom? Elena knelt to Lily's level, her eyes bright. That's me, sweetheart. I'm Elena. And you're Lily, right? I hear you're the plant expert. Lily grinned, holding up her journal. I made this. It's got all my plants. This one's a daisy, and it likes lots of sun. That's incredible, Elena said, flipping through the pages with genuine interest. Sophie's gonna love this. She's over there, plotting to take over the flower beds. David caught up, offering a shy smile. Hey, Elena, looks like Lily's already making friends. She's a natural, Elena said, standing. Thanks for coming. David, Sophie and Ethan haven't stopped talking about meeting you and Lily. David rubbed the back of his neck, a habit when he felt out of place. They seem great. Lily's been hyped about this all week. Elena gestured to a picnic table nearby, shaded by a massive oak. A canvas bag sat on it, filled with water bottles, snacks, and a stack of paper plates. I brought some stuff in case the kids get hungry. Want to sit for a bit? Sure, David said, following her. The table offered a clear view of the gardens, where Lily was already chatting with Sophie and Ethan, the twins. in matching blue jackets, listened as Lily pointed to a flower, her hands waving excitedly. "Look at that," Elena said, her voice soft. "They're hitting it off." David watched Lily hand Sophie her journal, the girl studying it seriously while Ethan poked at a petal. "Lily's never shy," he said. "She'll talk their ears off about flowers or bugs." "Sophie's quieter," Elena said, settling onto the bench. "She thinks before she speaks. But once she trusts you, she opens up." Ethan's the opposite, acts first, thinks later. "Sounds like a handful," David said, chuckling. "You have no idea," Elena replied, laughing. "How's Lily at home?" David leaned back, relaxing, curious, always asking why leaves turn red or how clouds work. "Last week, she dug up half the backyard for a root experiment. That's not charge. Took me hours to fix." Elena's eyes lit up. "A future botanist. Sophie wants to be a doctor, and Ethan's obsessed with building spaceships. They'd probably team up to make a plant-powered rocket," David said, imagining it. Lily's got a notebook full of ideas, most of them impossible, but she's convinced they'll work. They laughed, the sound blending with the kids' chatter. For a moment, David forgot the gap between their lives, his world of late bills and long shifts, hers of boardrooms and bodyguards. Here, under the oak, they were just parents, swapping stories about their kids in the gardens. Lily was in her element. She perched on a low stone wall. Sophie and Ethan gathered around as she flipped through her journal. "This is a sunflower," she said, pointing to a sketch. "It follows the sun all day." Sophie, her brown hair in a neat braid, nodded thoughtfully. "Does it have a heart? Like people?" "Kinda," Lily said. "It's got a center where seeds grow. That's like its heart." "Right." Ethan, his curls bouncing, jumped in. "I bet it's a robot heart, like in my spaceship." Lily giggled. "Maybe. Want to make a flower spaceship?" The twins nodded, and they scrambled to gather sticks and pebbles, plotting a garden rocket. Lily, used to leading her school friends, liked Sophie's calm focus and Ethan's wild ideas. "Have you guys ever built a treehouse?" she asked, brushing dirt off her hands. "Nope," Ethan said, pouting. "But Mom said your dad saved her in a cave. He's like a superhero." Lily puffed out her chest. "That's my dad. He fixes bikes, too. He says wheels are stronger than rocks." "Your dad's cool," Sophie said, stacking a stick. "Our dad doesn't live with us." Ethan glanced at Sophie, but Lily just shrugged. "I only have my dad. My mom's in heaven. But it's okay. Dad's enough." Sophie's face softened. "Our mom's enough, too. But she's super busy." "Let's make a rocket garden," Lily said, changing the subject. "There's a big stick over there. We can use my jacket for a sail." Their eyes sparkled, and they raced to a bush, collecting twigs and planning. Lily felt a warmth she hadn't clicked with kids like this in a while. Back at the table, Elena poured water for herself and David, her movements smooth despite the cast. "Here," she said, sliding a bottle to him. "How's the shop?" "Laura said you fixed our company bikes like lightning." David took a sip. "Going all right. Your bikes were solid. Just needed some love. Thanks for the contract." "It's a big deal. You're too modest," Elena said, leaning forward. "But I'm not surprised. Sophie and Ethan call you Mr. Superhero." "So call." David laughed, a flush creeping up his neck. "They're sweet. Lily's crazy about them. Keeps talking about their garden adventure." "I'm glad," Elena said, her voice softening. "It's nice seeing them connect." Their eyes met, and David felt that electric pull again, quieting his doubts. But before he could say more, Ethan ran up, hands filthy. "Mom, we need string." "Lots of string," Elena chuckled, digging into her bag for a ball of twine. "Here, But don't tie yourselves to a tree, okay? Ethan nodded, darting off. David shook his head, grinning. You've got your hands full. No kidding, Elena said, her tone fond. Want to see their masterpiece? They walked to the gardens, where the kids had transformed a patch into a rocket garden. Sticks formed a wobbly tower. Draped with Lily's jacket as a canopy, Sophie tied string around it, while Lily and Ethan argued over how many space flowers it needed. Nice work. Scientists, David called, making them cheer. It's the best garden ever. Lily declared, Sophie says we can plant real flowers. Elena nodded. I bet we could start a little garden at home. David, Lily, stay for dinner. David hesitated. Staying meant more time with Elena, which he wanted. But it also pulled him deeper into her world. Sounds good, he said finally. If Lily's up for it. Totally up for it, Lily shouted, not looking up from her string. Elena smiled, touching David's arm. Settled then. The day unfolded in laughter and color. David helped the kids stack sticks, while Elena supervised their space flower sketches. The rocket garden was less scientific, more imaginative, but the kids' joy was infectious. David stole glances at Elena, her laugh, the way she knelt to help Lily draw a star, her warmth making her feel like someone he could know, not just a CEO. By afternoon, the rocket garden was done, and the kids flopped on the grass, plotting a mission to Mars. Elena suggested pizza, and David offered to pick it up, needing a moment to clear his head. These feelings for Elena were real, but they scared him. He wasn't just risking his heart, it was Lily's, too. If this crashed, she'd hurt as much as he would. At the pizza place, David's phone pinged with a news alert. Local hero's contract with Whitaker Innovations raises eyebrows. His stomach dropped. The article implied his bike repair deal was a favor for saving Elena, quoting an insider who sounded like James. David gripped the wheel. He could handle gossip, but the idea of tainting Elena's reputation or his work stung. Back at the park, he handed over the pizzas, his mood heavier. Elena noticed, pulling him aside while the kids ate. What's wrong? She asked, her eyes searching. David showed her the article. This. Thought you should see it. Elena's face hardened as she scanned it. James, she muttered. Of course. Your ex? David asked. He's got it out for me. For me, Elena corrected. He's using you to get to me. I'm sorry. David, you don't deserve this. David shrugged, though it weighed on him. I can take the heat. Just don't want trouble for you or the kids. You're not trouble, Elena said fiercely. Your work's solid. I hired you because you're good. Not the quarry. James is just James. David nodded, but the article stirred doubts. Elena, I like this us, but your world's complicated. I'm just a bike guy. People like James won't let this go. Elena stepped closer, her voice firm. I don't care what James thinks. I care about you, Lily. The twins. We'll handle this. Together, her words steadied him, but fear lingered. He nodded, letting her lead him back. Okay. Together. Dinner was lively. The kids swapping pizza slices and debating whether their rocket garden could fly. Afterward, Elena set up a telescope in the park's open field, string lights twinkling around them. The sky was clear, stars blazing. David helped Lily aim at Orion, while Sophie showed Ethan the Big Dipper. Elena stood beside David, their shoulders brushing. Beautiful, isn't it? She said, gazing up. Yeah, David said, looking at her, under the stars. She was stunning, not the CEO, but the woman who laughed with Lily, who made him feel seen. The kids begged for one more constellation, and Elena indulged them, pointing out Cassiopeia. Lily leaned against David, yawning but happy, while Sophie and Ethan curled up near Elena. It felt like family, a thought that warmed and terrified David. As they packed up, Elena squeezed his hand. Today was perfect, she said. Thank you. David smiled. Yeah. It was driving home. Lily asleep in the back. David replayed the day. Elena was a light in his life, but James's shadow loomed. He didn't know if he could fit in her world, but for now, he'd try for Lily, for himself, and for the promise of something real. The autumn breeze swept through Asheville, carrying the scent of pine and fallen leaves. David Tran stood in his bike repair shop, the familiar hum of a spinning wheel filling the air. Sunlight streamed through the open garage door, glinting off a row of tools neatly hung on the wall. A radio played softly, a local station reporting on the upcoming harvest festival. David tightened a bolt on a customer's mountain bike, his hands steady but his mind elsewhere on Elena Whitaker, her twins, and the growing connection that both thrilled and unnerved him. It had been a week since their day at Pack Square Park, where Lily, Sophie, and Ethan had built their rocket garden, and David had felt, for a moment, like part of something bigger. The contract with Whitaker Innovations was in full swing. With David servicing a fleet of employee bikes, the steady income had paid off the rent and secured Lily's science camp fee, her excitement a balm for his worries. But the news article implying his contract was a payoff for saving Elena still stung, its shadow lingering like a storm cloud. David wiped his hands on a rag. Glancing at a photo of Lily taped to his workbench, her gap-toothed grin at last year's festival, cotton candy smeared on her cheeks. He smiled, but the weight of doubt pressed on him. Elena's world was a maze of power plays and public scrutiny, so different from his quiet life of wrenches and late-night bills. Could he really fit into it? And what about Lily? If this connection with Elena faltered, his daughter's heart would break alongside his. His phone buzzed, pulling him back. A text from Elena. Hey, you free tonight? The twins are begging for a rematch on that rocket garden. Dinner at my place. 6. Bring Lily. David's lips curved up. The thought of seeing Elena her laugh, her fierce blue eyes warmed him. He typed back. Sounds good. 6 works. Lily will bring her whole plant collection. Elena replied with a laughing emoji. Can't wait. Sophie's already planning a space forest. Shut up. David pocketed the phone, a mix of anticipation and caution swirling in his chest. Dinner at Elena's meant stepping deeper into her life, her home, her kids. It was more than a playdate. It was a bridge between their worlds. He wanted to cross it, but the whispers of James Carter, Elena's ex, and his vendetta loomed large. David shook his head, focusing on the bike, one step at a time, across town. Elena Whitaker sat in her office at Whitaker Innovations, a sleek space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Blue Ridge Mountains. Papers and a laptop cluttered her desk, but her attention was on a tablet displaying a security report. Her leg, still in a cast, rested on a stool. The quarry incident had left more than bruises. It had ignited a fire in her. James's involvement was all but confirmed, though hard evidence was elusive. His investors, hungry for control of her company's green tech patents, had orchestrated the attack to steal her laptop's data. They'd failed. Thanks to David, but Elena knew they wouldn't stop. Laura, her assistant, knocked and entered, holding a folder. Latest from the PI, she said, handing it over. James met with a shady consultant last week. No direct link to the quarry yet, but they're digging. Elena skimmed the report, her jaw tight. Keep them on it. James doesn't get to play dirty and walk away. Laura nodded. Also, the board's asking about the bike contract. Some are grumbling, say it looks like favoritism because of David. Elena's eyes flashed. It's a solid deal. David's work is top-notch, and we're saving money. If they want to nitpick, they can take it up with me. Figured you'd say that, Laura said. A hint of a smile. You're seeing him tonight. Right? Elena softened. Yeah, him and Lily. The kids are obsessed with each other. Laura raised an eyebrow. And you, obsessed with the bike guy. Elena laughed, brushing it off. He's real, that's all. Laura didn't push, leaving Elena to her thoughts. David was more than real. He was a spark in her guarded world. She'd built walls after James, focusing on Sophie, Ethan, and her empire. But David, with his quiet strength and devotion to Lily, had slipped through. Tonight wasn't just dinner. It was a chance to see if this spark could grow, despite the risks. At 5:45 p.m., David and Lily pulled up to Elena's home in Biltmore Forest, a sprawling estate with stone walls and manicured gardens. The house was grand but welcoming, with warm lights glowing through wide windows. Lily clutched her plant journal, bouncing with excitement. "Is this a castle, Daddy?" David chuckled, grabbing a bag of homemade cookies from Mrs. Jenkins. "Not quite. Kiddo, just a really nice house." They rang the bell, and Elena answered. Leaning on a crutch, she wore a soft green sweater and jeans, her hair loose, and her smile lit up the dusk. "You made it, Lily. Sophie and Ethan are in the backyard, plotting world domination." Lily squealed, darting past Elena after a quick hug. David lingered, holding out the cookies. "Mrs. Jenkins sent these. Hope you like oatmeal raisin. My favorite," Elena said, taking the bag. "Come in. You're just in time." The house was warm, filled with the scent of garlic and herbs. The foyer opened to a living room with plush sofas and a fireplace, kids' toys scattered across the rug. David felt a pang of awe. This was wealth he couldn't fathom, yet Elena made it feel like home. She led him to the kitchen, where a pot of pasta simmered on the stove. "Hope you're okay with spaghetti," she said, stirring the sauce. The twins' request. "Lily's favorite," David said, leaning against the counter. "Need a hand?" "Sure," Elena said, tossing him a loaf of bread. "Slice this. Fair warning, I'm a terrible baker." "So it's store-bought," David grinned, grabbing a knife. "I'm no chef either. Lily and I live on mac and cheese half the time." They worked side by side, the rhythm easy. David stole glances at Elena, her focused frown as she tasted the sauce. The way her laugh lines crinkled when he teased her about her fancy kitchen. For a moment, he forgot the world outside, the articles, the threats. It was just them, cooking for their kids. In the backyard, Lily, Sophie, and Ethan were deep in play. A makeshift space forest of sticks and blankets sprawled across the grass, lit by fairy lights strung in the trees. Lily led the charge, assigning roles. "I'm the plant captain. Sophie, you're the star mapper. Ethan, you guard the rocket." Ethan saluted, wielding a plastic sword. "No aliens get past me." Sophie, more reserved, sketched a map in Lily's journal. "We need more stars," she said. "For navigation." Lily nodded, impressed. "You're super smart." Sophie, "Want to add a flower star?" The kids laughed, piling leaves into their rocket. Lily felt at home, their chatter filling her with ideas. "We should make a real garden," she said, "with sunflowers and space rocks. Mom'll love that," Ethan said. "She's always planting stuff." They played until Elena called them in, their cheeks flushed and hands dirty. Dinner was loud and messy, the kids swapping stories about their space adventure while David and Elena refereed. Lily sat between Sophie and Ethan, her laughter ringing out as Ethan dropped a meatball on his shirt. David watched, his heart full. This his daughter happy. Surrounded by new friends was worth any risk. After dinner, the kids begged to watch a movie, and Elena set them up in the living room with popcorn and a Pixar flick. David helped clear the table. Falling into step with Elena in the kitchen, the dishwasher hummed, and the house settled into a cozy quiet. "Thanks for this," David said, drawing a plate. "Lily's having the time of her life. So are Sophie and Ethan," Elena said, wiping her hands. "And me. It's been a while since the house felt this alive." David nodded, but his thoughts drifted to the article. James's shadow. Elena. About that news piece. I know. She cut in, her voice low. It's garbage. James stirring the pot. I'm handling it. He's not just after you, David said, setting the plate down. He's dragging me in. I don't care about gossip, but I don't want it hurting you or the kids. Elena leaned against the counter, her eyes fierce. You're not hurting us. James is a bully, always has been. He's mad I'm moving on, and he sees you as a threat. David raised a brow. Me? I'm nobody. You're wrong, Elena said, stepping closer. You're honest, David. You care. That scares people like James. And it draws me to you. Her words hung in the air, heavy with meaning. David's pulse quickened. He really saw her not as a billionaire, but as a woman who'd faced loss and fought back. Just like him, I feel it too, he admitted, his voice rough. But your life's a lot. I'm just a guy with a kid and a shop. What if I can't keep up? You're already keeping up, Elena said, her hand brushing his. You're here, aren't you? Their fingers touched, a spark igniting. David wanted to close the gap, to kiss her. But the kids' laughter from the living room held him back. He smiled. Stepping away, you make it sound simple. It's not, Elena said, smiling back, but it's worth trying. They rejoined the kids, who were sprawled on blankets. Engrossed in the movie, Lily waved David over. Patting the spot beside her, Elena sat nearby, Sophie and Ethan leaning against her. The moment felt like a snapshot, a family. Imperfect but possible. David let himself imagine it, even as doubts gnawed at him. The next day, David was back at the shop, working on a Whitaker Innovations bike. The contract was a godsend, but every repair felt like a tether to Elena's world. His phone rang mid-morning, an unknown number. He answered, expecting a customer. Mr. Tran, a man's voice, clipped and cold. This is Richard Holt, with Carter Enterprises. We need to talk. David's stomach sank. Carter Enterprises, James's company. What's this about? Your contract, Holt said. It's causing issues. Step back, or we'll make things difficult. For you, your business, your daughter. David gripped the phone, anger flaring. You threatening me? Advice, Holt said. Think about what's best for Lily. The line went dead. David stood frozen, the shop's quiet pressing in. He wanted to call Elena's, but this felt personal. He wasn't running, but he wasn't know how to fight a man like James, whose reach seemed endless. That evening, David arrived at Elena's for a follow-up dinner. Lily in tow, the kids dove back into their space forest. But David was distracted. In the kitchen, he told Elena about Holt's call, his voice low. Elena's face darkened. That's James. He's escalating. I'll get my lawyers on it. David, I'm so sorry. David shook his head. It's not your fault. But I need to know how far will he go, as far as he can. Elena said, her voice steady. But I'm not letting him win. Not with you. Not with my company. David nodded. But the threat weighed heavy. I can't let Lily get caught in this. She's all I've got. I know, Elena said, touching his arm. We'll protect her, Sophie. Two, together. Her resolve steadied him, but fear lingered. Dinner was quieter, though the kids' laughter eased the tension. Afterward, they took the children to the backyard, where Elena had set up a small telescope. The stars were out, bright against the night sky. David helped Lily find the Milky Way, while Sophie pointed out Venus to Ethan. Elena stood close, their shoulders brushing. We're okay, she whispered. I promise. David looked at her eyes, fierce and kind, and nodded. Yeah, we are. But as they packed up, James's threat echoed. David knew this wasn't just about a contract. It was about building something real with Elena and fighting to keep it. The November chill settled over Asheville, weaving through the streets with a crisp bite. David Tran stood in his bike repair shop, the faint glow of a space heater warming the small garage. The scent of oil and rubber mingled with the piney air drifting through the cracked window. A radio played softly, a folk tune humming beneath the clink of David's wrench as he tightened a bike chain. The shop was quiet, a rare lull in a week that had felt like a whirlwind. Since the threatening call from Richard Holt, James Carter's lackey, David's world had shifted. The contract with Whitaker Innovations kept his shop afloat, paying off overdue bills and securing Lily's science camp. But the shadow of James loomed larger. His vendetta against Elena spilling into David's life. The news articles questioning David's contract had multiplied, fueled by James's whispers, painting David as an opportunist cashing in on heroism. He didn't care about the gossip, but the idea of Lily or Elena getting hurt because of him gnawed at his heart. David glanced at a photo on his workbench. Lily, Sophie, and Ethan at Pack Square Park. Their rocket garden, a messy pile of sticks behind them. Lily's grin was infectious, a reminder of why he kept going. Tonight, he and Lily were headed to Elena's for dinner, a now weekly ritual. The kids were inseparable, and David couldn't deny the pull he felt toward Elena, her strength, her warmth, the way she made him believe in something beyond survival. But Holt's threat echoed, think about what's best for Lily. David wasn't scared for himself, but his daughter was everything. His phone buzzed. A text from Elena. Hey, dinner's at 6. Sophie's making space cupcakes. Bring Lily's plant journal. She's got ideas for our backyard garden. David smiled, typing back. We'll be there. Warn Sophie Lily's planning a jungle. Elena replied, bring it on. See you soon. He pocketed the phone, a warmth spreading through him, but doubt lingered. Could he protect Lily in Elena's high-stakes world? James wasn't just a bitter ex. He was a man with money and power, willing to play dirty. David wasn't sure he could match that. But he knew he couldn't walk away, not from Elena, not from the life they were building. At Whitaker Innovations, Elena Whitaker stood before a conference room of board members, her cast replaced by a brace. The room was sleek, all glass and steel, with Asheville's mountains framing the view. Papers and tablets littered the table, but Elena's focus was on the screen displaying financial projections. James had escalated his attacks, pushing a shareholder motion to audit Whitaker's contracts, including David's. It was a thinly veiled attempt to undermine her leadership, and the board was restless. Mrs. Whitaker, a board member, Mr. Grayson, said, adjusting his glasses. This bike maintenance deal with Trans. It's small, but the optics are bad. The press is calling it favoritism. Can you justify it? Elena's eyes narrowed, her voice steady. The contract saves us 15% compared to our previous vendor. Mr. Tran's work is efficient, reliable, and well-reviewed. The numbers are in your packets. As for the press, it's noise stirred by my ex-husband to distract from his own agenda. Grayson shifted, unconvinced. And your personal connection to Mr. Tran? Elena didn't flinch. He saved my life. That's not a secret. But this deal stands on its merits. If you want to audit, go ahead. You'll find nothing but solid business. The room murmured, but her resolve silenced doubters. The motion was tabled. A small victory. As the meeting ended, Elena's assistant, Laura, approached. You handled that, Laura said, handing her a coffee. But James is meeting with investors tomorrow. He's not slowing down. Let him try, Elena said, her jaw tight. I've got my own moves. Back in her office, Elena checked her phone, smiling at David's text. Tonight wasn't just dinner. It was a chance to ground herself with him. Lily and the twins. James's threats had shaken her, but David's quiet courage anchored her. She'd fallen for him, not just for saving her, but for who he was. A father who fought for his daughter, a man who saw her as Elena. not a CEO. She wanted more than dinners and playdates. She wanted a future, and she was ready to fight for it. At 6 p.m., David and Lily arrived at Elena's estate, the driveway lined with glowing lanterns. Lily clutched her plant journal, her eyes wide at the fairy lights twinkling in the garden. It's like a magic forest, Daddy. David chuckled, carrying a tray of Mrs. Starr's superchotso Jenkins's brownies. Wait till you see the twins' cupcakes. Probably glowing, too. Elena greeted them at the door, her brace barely slowing her. She wore a soft blue sweater, her hair pulled back, and her smile erased David's worries. You're here, Lily. Sophie and Ethan are in the kitchen, decorating their masterpiece. Lily hugged Elena and bolted inside, leaving David to hand over the brownies. Mrs. Jenkins strikes again, he said. Hope you like chocolate. Who doesn't? Elena said, leading him in. The house smelled of vanilla and roasted vegetables, a warmth that wrapped around them. The living room was cozy, with a fire crackling and kids' drawings taped to the walls, a sign of Sophie and Ethan's chaos. In the kitchen, the twins and Lily were a whirlwind. Icing cupcakes with neon frosting. Sophie. Precise, piped stars. While Ethan smeared green globs, calling them alien goo. Lily joined in, sketching a flower on her cupcake with a toothpick. David watched, leaning against the counter, a quiet joy settling in. Elena nudged him, offering a glass of wine. To surviving parenthood, she said, clinking his glass. To surviving, David echoed, their eyes locking. Her gaze held a spark, hope, maybe love, that made his heart race. Dinner was a riot of laughter, the kids trading stories about their space forest. Lily proposed a garden with moonflowers, and Sophie suggested glow-in-the-dark rocks. Ethan, mouth full of mashed potatoes, declared he'd build a robot gardener. David and Elena exchanged amused glances, refereeing the chaos. For an hour, the world outside James. The articles, the threats faded. After dinner, the kids begged for a backyard adventure, and Elena led them to the garden, where a telescope stood under the stars. David helped Lily aim at Jupiter, her gasps of wonder echoing Sophie's. Ethan, impatient, demanded to see an alien planet. Elena indulged them, pointing out Saturn's rings, her voice soft and patient. David stood beside her, their shoulders brushing. You're good at this, he said. The mom thing, the star thing. You're not bad yourself, Elena replied, her smile teasing. Lily's lucky to have you. They shared a quiet moment, the kids' laughter blending with the night. But David's thoughts drifted to Holt's call, the weight of it pressing in. He couldn't keep it from Elena any longer. Can we talk? He asked, nodding toward the patio. Elena sensed his shift, following him to a bench away from the kids. What's up? She asked. Her voice low, David exhaled, rubbing his neck. That call from Holt, it's eating at me. He mentioned Lily. I can handle a lot. Elena, but not her getting hurt. James is coming for you, and I'm in the crossfire. Elena's face hardened, but her hand found his. I'm so sorry, David. James is a coward, hitting where it hurts most. But I'm not letting him touch Lily or you. How? David asked, his voice raw. He's got money, connections. I'm just a guy with a shop. What if I'm making this worse for you? You're not, Elena said fiercely. You're the best thing in my life right now. You and Lily. James wants me isolated, scared. But with you, I'm stronger. Her words stirred him, but doubt lingered. I want this us, but Lily's my world. If James comes for her, he won't. Elena cut in. I've got security, lawyers, and a plan. Trust me, David. We'll beat him together. David searched her eyes, finding resolve and something deeper love, unspoken but real. He nodded, squeezing her hand. Okay, together. They rejoined the kids, who were now sprawled on a blanket, inventing constellations. Lily pointed at a cluster. That's the flower star. It grows petals in space. Sophie nodded seriously. It needs a map. I'll draw it. Ethan, chewing a cupcake, grinned. I'll build a rocket to get there. Elena laughed. Sitting beside them, and David joined. Lily leaning against him, the moment felt fragile. A bubble of joy in a stormy world, but it was theirs. And David held it close. The next morning, David woke to a new article. Whitaker CEO's cozy deal with local hero under fire. It quoted James, claiming Elena's personal ties to David compromised her judgment. David's stomach churned. He didn't care about his name being dragged. But Elena's reputation was at stake. He called her, his voice tight, saw the article. He said when she answered, "This is getting worse. Maybe I should back off the contract." "No," Elena said, her tone sharp. "That's what James wants. I'm meeting the board today to shut this down. Your work's legit, and I'll prove it." David hesitated. "I don't want you fighting my battles." "You're not," she said. "This is our fight. Trust me." He did, but the pressure was mounting. That afternoon, at the shop, a customer mentioned the article, joking about David's big break. David forced a smile, but it stung. He was fixing bikes, not chasing fame. When he picked Lily up from school, her chatter about a new plant project eased his tension. But James's shadow lingered. At Whitaker Innovations, Elena faced the board again, armed with data. David's contract costs, performance metrics, and employee feedback. She presented with steel, dismantling James's claims. "This is business," she said, "not personal. If you question my judgment, look at the numbers." The board backed her, but the victory was bittersweet. James's next move would be uglier. Laura confirmed he'd hired a PR firm to amplify the scandal, targeting Elena's credibility. "He's desperate," Laura said. "That's dangerous." Elena nodded, her mind on David. She texted him, "Board's handled. Dinner tomorrow. We need to talk." David replied, "Yeah, I'll bring Lily. You okay?" "Better with you," she wrote, meaning it. The next evening, David and Lily arrived at Elena's, the house glowing under a crescent moon. The kids dove into a space treasure hunt, scouring the garden for meteorites-painted rocks Elena had hidden. David and Elena watched from the patio, a quiet tension between them. Board went, "Okay," David asked, sipping a coffee. "For now," Elena said, her eyes on the kids. "James is doubling down. He's not just after my company, he wants to break me." David's jaw tightened. "Because of me. Because I'm happy," Elena said, turning to him. "He sees us." David, "You, May, the kids. It's a threat to his control." David processed this, his heart heavy. "I don't want to make your life harder." "You don't," Elena said, her hand finding his. "You make it better." "I'm falling for you, David. And I think you feel it, too." Her words hit like a spark. David looked at her strong, vulnerable, beautiful under the moonlight. "I do," he admitted. "I'm scared, Elena. After Emily, I didn't think but I love you." Elena's eyes shone, and she leaned in, kissing him. It was soft, fierce, a promise. The kids' giggles broke the moment, and they pulled apart. Laughing, Lily ran up, holding a meteorite. "Look, Daddy, we're rich. Richest kids in the galaxy," David said, ruffling her hair. Later, as the kids watched a movie, Elena pulled David to the kitchen. "I have something to say," she said, her voice steady. "It's big." David grinned, nerves tingling. "What? You're an alien?" She swatted him, then grew serious. "I want you and Lily to move in, be a family. I know it's fast, but I want this us. The kids, a life together." David froze. the weight of it sinking in. Moving in meant leaving his small world, embracing Elena's. It was a leap, but the thought of Lily growing up with Sophie and Ethan, of waking to Elena's smile, felt right. I need to talk to Lily, he said. But, yeah, Elena, I want it too. She kissed him again, joy radiating. The kids peeked in, giggling. Are you guys in love? Lily asked. Eyes wide, Elena laughed, pulling them into a hug, maybe a little. Now, who's picking the next movie? The kids cheered, dragging them to the couch. David sat with Lily on his lap, Elena beside him. Sophie and Ethan sprawled nearby. It was messy. Perfect. A glimpse of forever. Weeks later, David and Lily moved into Elena's estate, their belongings blending with the twins. The transition was smoother than David expected. The kids' bond easing the way. David kept his shop, balancing it with the Whitaker contract. Elena hired extra security, and her lawyers dug into James's dealings, uncovering financial irregularities that weakened his influence. One evening, they took a drive through the Blue Ridge Parkway, the kids singing in the back. Elena wore a simple ring, a quiet engagement David had proposed with under the stars. Look at us, she said, squeezing his hand. A family. David smiled, his heart full, the best kind. The road curved through the mountains, and David knew challenges lay ahead, James's lingering threats, the scrutiny of Elena's world. But with Elena beside him, Lily's laughter mingling with Sophie and Ethan's, he was ready. This was their beginning, forged in courage, love, and a night that changed everything. Thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey with kindness in real life. Your support means the world to us, and we're so grateful to have you as part of our community. If you love David and Elena's story, please hit that like button. Drop a comment below to share your favorite moment. And don't forget to subscribe to catch more heartwarming tales of courage and connection. Let's spread kindness together. See you in the next video.